Wes Streeting, great to see you. How's the new job?
Good morning. Day 2, and I think it's very clear that I'm going to be pretty busy. So don't ask me what my Christmas plans are and whether I've changed them, because I think I did that 2 days ago when I was given this job. But I think last time I was on, I talked about my experience with kidney cancer earlier this year. I mean, having been through that and looking at some of the news today about NHS waiting lists, cancer waiting times, this is a job that's really important to me, and we've got 2 important jobs as the Labour Party. One is to hold the government to account, work constructively with them in the course of tackling this pandemic, which isn't over, but also looking ahead to the next election to set out a set of policies that people trust and believe in, that reflect their priorities and their concerns, and that might lead them, as they look in on this government, which has been, let's be honest, in recent weeks, a bit of a shambles with working people paying the price, that people might start looking to Labour as an alternative government and put their faith in us. But a lot of work to do, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck in. OK,
what would your plan be if you were in government at the moment when it comes to people going to Christmas parties?
We want people to continue to enjoy Christmas as usual, and if the government does everything within its power, then they should be able to continue to do that. So myself and Yvette Cooper, the Shadow Home Secretary, have called on Sajid Javid and Priti Patel to introduce pre-departure testing for all arrivals into the UK from overseas. That means that we'll put an end to the, frankly, bizarre situation we've got at the moment where people can travel on busy transport to the airport, go through the busy airport, be on a busy flight, arrive into a busy arrivals hall, travel home on busy public transport without having had a test. That would seem to me to be a sensible precautionary
We did
measure.
have that previously, and I did put that to Sajid Javid. He said, yeah, we did do that. We don't need to do it anymore.
I just don't think, given that only yesterday the House of Commons has once again asked people to make changes to the way they go about their lives, it's only right the government does everything within its power to reduce the risk of this variant or new variants coming into the UK, seeding themselves in communities across the UK and spreading. And, we've seen time and again the cost of that in terms of lives, livelihoods and liberties is a high price, and not one we should ask the British people to pay unnecessarily as a result of government inaction. So constructively, robustly, we've asked the government to take that step. There are other things they can do in terms of antiviral treatments, which give us means of potentially treating COVID-19. Let's make sure we're speeding up the evaluation and approval of those treatments. Let's make sure that we are taking action on things like ventilation and other sensible measures that can reduce the impact of the virus. And as for the booster campaign this week, we've called on the government to do 500,000 booster jabs a day. They've fallen well short of that. So having challenged them and clearly having listened, let's get on the...
They've not always fallen well short of that. They have actually reached 500,000 on occasion.
On occasion.
And they're in the 400s.
On occasion. But I think what we've been saying to the government is redouble your efforts, use community pharmacy, pop-up testing, let's enlist new volunteers. And to be fair to them, they've listened. So we're going to get right behind that booster campaign and also encourage people where they haven't had perhaps their second jab yet or even their first to take up that jab. We want the government to be successful in this. We want Britain to get vaccinated and we want to minimise the risk of this virus, both in terms of the spread and transmission and also the impact on people's health.
How worried should we be about this Omicron variant? I mean, it's transpired this morning that it's been detected as far back as October in the UK.
Yeah, look, I think we monitor the science all the time in terms of the severity of this virus, in terms of its transmissibility. I think that's why, as I said, the government's got to take every precautionary step. And also,
why does that not include not mingling at Christmas?
Well, if the government does the things that we've asked them to, that shouldn't be necessary. Bearing in mind that throughout the pandemic, in terms of testing, in terms of vaccination and in terms of treatment, we are in a different place to where we've been earlier on. And from my point of view, the Labour Party's point of view, we don't want to disrupt people's lives any more than is necessary. And we think if the government does everything that we've called on them to do, we've recommended that they do, then it shouldn't be necessary for people to change their Christmas plans.
So just how does that square with people working from home? Because you want people to work from home, don't you? But you're saying work from home, but you can go to a party.
Well, I think people can make sensible choices and precautions,
but we don't.
Look, I just think the point is, Kate, no one wants to be the Grinch that cancels Christmas. We don't want people to have to go through what we've been through previously in terms of not seeing family and friends and enjoying themselves over Christmas. And we genuinely think if the government does those things that I've outlined this morning, of course, accelerates the booster rollout, as they said they will, but those other things I've mentioned in terms of testing before people board flights or transport into the UK from overseas, action on ventilation and action on antiviral treatment, these are all things that mean that we can go about our lives as normal. Because the objective here, let's remember, we're not going to eradicate COVID. The objective here is to make sure that we can coexist with the virus without the kind of devastating consequences we've seen.
I understand, and Labour criticises the government for mixed messaging, and I hear that as well, because we're hearing two sides of that same coin. But your party is saying work from home, go to your Christmas party.
Well, we're not saying compelling people to work from home. It's about making choices, and I think people are making sensible choices.
But you understand that's a mixed message.
They are making sensible choices. I don't think so, actually, Kay. I think people are thinking about how they mix, when they mix, and the kind of the risk trade-off. And I think it's perfectly reasonable for people to say, well, I'm not going to go out and about unnecessarily. But of course, Christmas is approaching. I would like to see my family and friends. And that's a reasonable choice for me to make. I don't actually think that's mixed messaging. I think where we've got to this week with the warnings from Jenny Harries is clearly an anxiety that the government isn't quite doing everything that they need to, that the virus is not, an action to get on top of the virus isn't being as successful as it could be. That's what we need to get ahead of so that people can enjoy Christmas as normal, and that's what we want to see.
And does Labour support the 10-day isolation if you have been in touch with somebody who's got the COVID variant?
Well, yeah, if people...
Because that could ruin people's Christmases.
It could, but, you know, we've got to take the precautionary principle on the new variant. And as I say, you know, we don't want people's Christmas to be ruined. We really don't. And, of course, you know, I mean, I had, as well as cancer, I've had COVID as well. And, you know, I can tell...
You've been through the wars.
I know, tell me about it. I mean, honestly, I think I've taken mystery shopping in the NHS to the nth degree this year. So I can tell you quite a lot about various patient pathways and experiences during the course of this last year. But of course, if people contract the virus, they also have to isolate at home. And one of the things we're saying to the government as well is don't make that a fun, actually.
People who don't necessarily contract it, but are in contact with people.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's the distinction. But I'm also saying, of course, if people contract the virus itself, they still have to isolate. Of course, if people contract the virus itself, they still have to isolate at home. Of course, that is going to be necessary. And the government needs to make it possible as well. So one of the other things we've urged the government to do is to take action on statutory sick pay, because I think we've had too many examples of people feeling that they can't afford to isolate at home, and we don't want that to be the case.
What is going on with your boss and your deputy boss? So Keir Starmer's issued a save the date for Christmas drinks with journalists based in Westminster, NFI, but he hasn't...
Well, that's his first big mistake this year.
Sort that out, doesn't he?
Well, he's not invited me either, if it makes you feel better, so, you know...
But he's not invited Angela Rayner. What's that about?
I don't know that that's true.
Well, apparently it's true. Are you saying it's not true?
I don't know.
And what if it is true?
I don't know. And also, I imagine Angela's inundated, and if she isn't, well, me and you can get together for Christmas drinks on the same night. And we'll get
yeah, our party will be better.
Can I just say, I know Keir and Angie very well. I know we were in Shadow Cabinet the other day together. I do think so much of this is really overblown. Actually,
not though, is it?
No, I really do think that
you're protesting
no,
too much.
I'm not
now.
actually. No,
yeah, you really
I know them both really well. I count them both as friends. We've got a really good united team following the Shadow Cabinet reshuffle, and we've got a lot of work to do to win back voters' trust. And I do think given what we've been talking about this morning in terms of people's. In terms of what we talked about this morning in terms of people's Christmases, the sorts of things people are worried about today, I really don't think Angie or Keir's Christmas party plans are top of the list of people's concerns.
Well, I think they're very interested in if you are going to be a party fit for government, whether or not those two at the top are getting on or not. Look what happened to the Labour Party previously when Gordon Brown and Tony Blair started falling out. You know, they were basically ripping lumps out of each other. The question is, how much involvement did she have in the reshuffle?
You'd have to ask her. My understanding is that Angie was consulted, knew the reshuffle was happening. But, you know, I genuinely think, Kay, in terms of the sorts of things that are worrying people today and the sort of priorities we have as a Labour Party, this kind of Westminster tittle-tattle is the least of people's
I'm just a bit worried that you keep calling her Angie. It's good to see you, Wes.
I've known her for she's a really good friend of mine and a good colleague.
Excellent. It's good to see you. Let me know what the date is for our party.
Yeah, we'll get together.
Great to see you. Thanks very much, Wes. Thank you.